The Oera Linda Book, Part 2. Friar's Text. Prosperity awaits the free. At last they shall see me again, though him only can I recognize as free, who is neither a slave to another nor to himself. This is my counsel. 1. When in dire distress and when mental and physical energy avail nothing, then have recourse to the spirit of Rorolda. Do not appeal to him before you have tried all other means, for I tell you beforehand, and time will prove its truth, that those who give way to discouragement sink under their burdens. 2. To Rorolda's spirit only shall you bend the knee in gratitude, thricefold for what you have received, for what you do receive, and for the hope of aid in time of need. 3. You have seen how speedily I have come to your assistance. Do likewise to your neighbour, but wait not for his entreaties. The suffering would curse you, my maidens, would erase your name from the book, and I would regard you as a stranger. 4. Let not your neighbour express his thanks to you on bended knee, which is only due to Rorolda's spirit. Envy would assail you, wisdom would ridicule you, and my maidens would accuse you of irreverence. 5. 4 things are given for your enjoyment: air, water, land, and fire. But Rorolda is the sole possessor of them. Therefore my counsel to you is choose upright men who will fairly divide the labour and the fruits, so that no man shall be exempt from work or from the duty of defence. 6. If ever it should happen that one of your people should sell his freedom, he is not of you, he is a bastard. I counsel you to expel him and his mother from the land. Repeat this to your children morning, noon, and night, till they think of it in their dreams. 7. If any man shall deprive another, even his debtor, of his liberty, then to him let him be to you as a vile slave. And I advise you to burn his body and that of his mother in an open place, and bury them 50 feet below the ground, so that no grass shall grow upon them. It would poison your cattle. 8. Meddle not with the people of Leda nor of Finder, because Rorolda would help them, and any injury that you inflict upon them would recoil upon your own heads. 9. If it should happen that they come to you for advice or assistance, then it behoves you to help them. But if they should rob you, then fall upon them with fire and sword. If any of them should seek a daughter of yours to be a wife, and she is willing, explain to her her folly. But if she will follow her lover, let her go in peace. If your son wishes for a daughter of theirs to do the same as to your daughter, but let not either one or the other ever return among you. 11. If your son wishes for a daughter of theirs, do the same as to your daughter, but let not either one or the other ever return among you, for they would introduce foreign morals and customs, and if these were accepted by you, I could no longer watch over you. 12. Upon my servant, Faster, I have placed all my hopes. Therefore you must choose her for Eramola. Follow my advice, and she will hereafter remain my servant, as well as all the sacred maidens who succeed her. There shall the lamp which I have lighted for you never be extinguished. Its brightness shall always illuminate your intellect, and you shall always remain as free from foreign domination as your fresh river water is distinct from the salt sea. This has Faster spoken. All the regulations which have existed a century, that is, 100 years, may be the advice of the Eramoda, with the consent of the community, be inscribed upon the walls of the citadel, and when inscribed on the walls, they become laws, and it is our duty to respect them all. If, by force or necessity, any regulations should be imposed upon us at variance with our laws and customs, we must submit, but should we be released, we must always return to our own again. That is Friar's will, and must be that of all her children. Anything that any man commences, whatever it may be, on the day appointed for Friar's worship, shall eternally fail. For time has proved that she was right, and it is become a law that no man shall, except from absolute necessity, keep that day otherwise than as a joyful feast. And these are the laws established for the government of the citadel. Whenever a citadel is built, the lamp belonging to it must be lighted at the original lamp in Texland, and that can only be done by the mother. Every mother shall appoint her own maidens. She may even choose those who are mothers in other towns. The mother of Texland may appoint her own successor, but should she die without having done so, the election shall take place at a general assembly of the whole nation. The mother of Texland may have 21 maidens and 7 assistants, so that there may always be 7 to attend the lamp day and night. She may have the same number of maidens who are mothers in other towns. If a maiden wishes to marry, she must announce it to the mother and immediately resign her office before her passion shall have polluted the light. For the service of the mother and of each of the burg maidens, there shall be appointed 21 townsmen, 7 civilians of mature years, 7 warriors of mature years, and 7 seamen of mature years. Out of the 7, 3 shall retire every year and shall not be replaced by members of their own family nearer than the 4th degree. Each may have 300 young townsmen as defenders. For this service they must pay the friar's tax, and for this service they must study friar's texts and the laws. From the sages they must learn wisdom, from the warriors the art of war, and from the sea kings the skill required for distant voyages. Every year 100 of the defenders shall return to their homes, and those that may have been wounded shall remain in the citadels. At the election of the defenders, no burgher or grabbit man or other person of distinction shall vote, but only the people. The mother of Texland shall have 3 times 7 active messengers, and 3 times 12 speedy horses. In other citadels each maiden shall have 3 messengers and 7 horses. Every citadel shall have 50 agriculturalists, chosen by the people, but only those may be chosen who are not strong enough to go to war or to go to sea. Every citadel must provide for its own sustenance and must maintain its own defence, and look after its own share of the general contributions. If a man is chosen to fill any office and refuses to serve, he can never become a burgher, nor have any vote, and if he is already a burgher, he shall cease to be so. If any man wishes to consult the mother or a burged maid, he must apply to the secretary, who will take him to the burged master. He will then be examined by a surgeon to see if he is in good health. If he is passed, he shall lay aside his arms, and 7 warriors shall present him to the mother. If the affair concerns only one district, he must bring forward not less than 3 witnesses. If it affects the whole of Friesland, he must have 21 additional witnesses in order to guard against any deceptions. Under all circumstances, the mother must take care that her children, that is, friars' people, shall remain as temperate as possible. This is her most important duty, and it is the duty of all of us to help her in performing it. If she is called upon to decide any judicial question between a gravitsman and the community, she must incline towards the side of the community in order to maintain peace, and because it is better that one man should suffer than many. If anyone comes to the mother for advice and she is prepared to give it, she must do it immediately. If she does not know what to advise, he must remain waiting for 7 days, and if she then is unable to advise, he must go away without complaining, because it is better to have no advice at all than bad advice. If a mother shall have given bad advice out of ill will, she must be killed or driven out of the land, deprived of everything. If her Bergtheren are accomplices, they are too to be treated in a similar manner. If her guilt is doubtful or only suspect, it must be considered and debated, if necessary, for 21 weeks. If half the votes are against her, she must be declared innocent. If 2/3 are against her, she must wait a whole year. If the votes are then the same, she must be considered guilty, but may not be put to death. And if any of the 1/3 who have voted for her wish to go away with her, they may depart with all their live and dead stock, and shall not be the less considered, since the majority may be wrong as well as the minority. And here are the universal laws of the Oera Linda Book. Number 1, all free-born men are equal, wherefore they must all have equal rights on seas and land, and on all that Warolda has given. 2, every man may seek the wife of his choice, and every woman may bestow her hand on him who she loves. 3, when a man takes a wife, a house and yard must be given to him. If there is none, one must be built for him. 4, if he has taken a wife in another village and wishes to remain, they must give him a house there, and likewise the free use of the common. 5, to every man must be given a piece of land behind his house. No man shall have land in front of his house, still less an enclosure, unless he has performed some public service. In such a case it may be given, and the youngest son may inherit it, but after him it returns to the community. Every village shall possess a common for the general good, and the chief of the village shall take care of it. Shall take care that it is kept in good order, so that the posterity shall find it uninjured. 7, every village shall have a marketplace. All the rest of the land shall be for the tillage and forest. No one shall fell trees without the consent of the community or without the knowledge of the forester, for the forests are the general property, and no man can appropriate them. 8, the market changes shall not exceed 1/12 of the value of the goods, either to natives or strangers. The portion taken for the charges shall not be sold before the other goods. Before the other goods. 9, all the market receipts must be divided yearly into 100 parts 3 days before the due. All the market receipts must be divided yearly into 100 parts 3 days before the jewel day. 10, the brevet man and his counsel shall take 20 parts, the keeper of the market 10, and his assistants 5, and the volksmotor 1, the midwife 4, the village 10, and the poor and infirm shall have 50 parts. 11, there shall be no usurers in the market. If any should come, it will be the duty of the maidens to make it known through the whole land, in order that such people may not be chosen for any office, because they are hard-hearted. For the sake of money they would betray everybody, and the people, the mother, their nearest relations, and even their own selves. If any man should attempt to sell diseased cattle or damaged goods for the sound or damaged goods for sound, the market keeper shall expel him, and the maidens shall proclaim him through the country. In early times almost all the Finns lived together in their native land, which was called Outland, and is now submerged. They were thus far away, and we had no wars. When they were driven hitherwards, and appeared as robbers, then arose the necessity of defending ourselves, and we had armies, kings, and wars. For all this there were established regulations, and out of the regulations came fixed laws. Here follow the laws of which thus were established. 1. Every Frisian must resist the assailants with such weapons as he can procure, invent, and use. 2. When a boy is 12 years old, he must devote 1 day in 7 to learning how to use his weapons. 3. As soon as he is perfect in the use of them, they are to be given to him, and he is to be admitted as a warrior. 4. After serving as a warrior 3 years, he may become a citizen, and he may have a vote in the election of the head man. 5. When he has been 7 years a voter, he may then have a vote for the chief or the king, and may be himself elected. 6. Every year he must be re-elected. 7. Except for the king, all other officials are re-eligible who act according to friars' laws. 8. No king may be in the office more than 3 years, in order that the office may not be permanent. 9. After an interval of 7 years, he may be elected again. 10. If the king is killed by the enemy, his nearest relative may be a candidate to succeed him. 11. If he dies a natural death, or if his period of service has expired, he shall not be succeeded by any blood relation nearer than the 4th degree. And 12. Those who fight with arms are not men of counsel. Therefore no king must bear arms. His wisdom must be his weapon, and the love of his warriors his shield. These are the rights of the mothers and the kings. 1. If war breaks out, the mother sends her messengers to the king, who sends messengers to the gravesman to call the citizens to arms. 2. The gravetmen call all citizens together and decide how many men shall be sent. 3. All the resolutions must immediately be sent to the mother by messengers and witnesses. 4. The mother considers all the resolutions and decides upon them, and with this the king as well as the people must be satisfied. 5. When in the field, the king consults only his superior officers, but 3 citizens of the mother must be present without any voice. These citizens must send daily reports to the mother, that they may be sure nothing is done contrary to the counsels of friar. 6. If the king wishes to do anything which his counsel opposes, he may not persist in it. 7. If an enemy appears unexpectedly, the king's orders must be obeyed. 8. If the king is not present, the next to him takes command, and so on in succession according to rank. 9. If there is no leader present, one must be chosen. 10. If there is no time to choose, anyone may come forward who feels himself capable of leading. 11. If a king has conquered a dangerous enemy, his successors may take his name after their own. The king may, if he wishes, choose an open piece of ground for a house and grounds. The ground shall be enclosed, and may be so large that there shall be 700 steps to the boundary, in all directions from the house. 12. His youngest son may inherit this, and that son's youngest son after him. Then it shall return to the community. Here are the rules established for the security of all Frisians. 1. Whenever new laws are made or new regulations established, they must be for the common good and not for individual advantage. 2. Whenever in time of war either ships or houses are destroyed, either by the enemy or as a matter of precaution, a general levy shall be assessed on the people to make it good again, so that no one may neglect the general welfare to preserve his own interests. 3. At the conclusion of a war, if any men are so severely wounded as to be unable to work, they shall be maintained at the public expense and shall have the best seats at festivals, in order that the young may learn to honour them. 4. If there are widows and orphans, they shall likewise be maintained at the public expense, and the sons may inscribe the names of their fathers on their shields for the honour of their families. 5. If any who have been taken prisoner should return, they must be kept separate from the camp, because they may have obtained their liberty by making treacherous promises, and thus they may avoid keeping their promises without forfeiting their honour. 6. If any enemies be taken prisoners, they must be sent to the interior of the country, that they may learn our free customs. 7. If they are afterwards set free, it must be done with kindness by the maidens, in order that we may make them comrades and friends instead of haters and enemies. From Mino's writings. If anyone should be so wicked as to commit robbery, murder, arson, rape, or any other crime upon a neighbouring state, and our people wish to inflict punishment, the culprit shall be put to death in the presence of the offended, in order that no war may arise and the innocent suffer for the guilty. If the offended will spare his life and forego their revenge, it may be permitted. If the culprit should be a king, a brevet man, or other persons in authority, we must make good his fault, but he must be punished. If he bears on his shield the honourable name of his forefathers, his kinsmen shall no longer wear it. If he bears on his shield the honourable name of his forefathers, his kinsmen shall no longer wear it, in order that every man may look after the conduct of his relatives. The laws for navigators. The navigator is the title of those who make foreign voyages. Number 1. All of Friar's sons have equal rights, and every stalwart youth may offer himself as a navigator to the alderman, who may not refuse him as long as there is any vacancy. 2. The navigators may choose their own masters. 3. The traders must be chosen and named by the community to which they belong, and the navigators have no voice in their election. 4. If, during a voyage, it is found that the king is bad or incompetent, another may be put in his place, and on the return home he may make his complaint to the alderman. 5. If the fleet returns with profits, the sailors may divide 1/3 amongst themselves in the following manner: the king 12 portions, the admiral 7, bostwains each get 2, the captain 3, and the rest of the crew each 1 part. The youngest boys each 1/3 of a portion, and the second boys half a portion each, and the eldest boys 2/3 of a portion. 6. If any have been disabled, they must be maintained at the public expense and honoured in the same way as soldiers. 7. If any have died on the voyage, their nearest relatives inherit their portion. 8. The widows and orphans must be maintained at the public expense, and if they were killed in a sea fight, their sons may bear the names of their forefathers on their shields. 9. If a topsailman is lost, his heirs shall receive a whole portion. 10. If he was betrothed, his bride may claim 7 portions in order to erect a monument to her bridegroom, but then she must remain a widow all of her life. 11. If the community is fitting out a fleet, the purveyors must provide the best provisions for the voyage and for the women and children. 12. If a sailor is worn out and poor and has no house or patrimony, one must be given him. If he does not wish for a house, his friends may take him home, and the community must bear the expense unless his friends decline to receive it. The useful extracts from the writings left by Mino. Mino was an ancient sea king. He was a seer and a philosopher, and he gave laws to the Cretans. He was born at Linda Book, and after all his wanderings, he had the happiness to die at Lindahem. If our neighbours have a piece of land or water which would be advantageous for us to possess, it is proper that we should offer to buy it. If they refuse to sell it, we must let them keep it. This is Fry's text, and it would be unjust to act contrary to it. If any of our neighbours quarrel and fight about any matter except land, and they request us to arbitrate, our best course will be to decline. But if they insist upon it, it must be done honourably and justly. If anyone comes and says, "I am at war, you must help me," or another comes and says, "My son is an infant and incompetent, and I am old, so I wish you to be his guardian and to take charge of my property until he is of age," it is proper to refuse, in order that we may not come into dispute about foreign matters to our free customs. Whenever a foreign trader comes to the open markets at Waringen or Alamanda land, if he cheats, he must immediately be fined, and it must be published by the maidens throughout the whole country. If he should come back, no one must deal with him. He must return as he came. Whenever traders are chosen to go to trading stations or to sail with the fleets, they must be well known and of good reputation with the maidens. If, however, a bad man should try by chance be chosen and should try to cheat, the others are bound to remove him. If he should have committed a cheat, it must be made good, and the culprit must be banished from the land, in order that our name may be everywhere held in honour. If we should be ill-treated in a foreign market, whether distant or near, we must immediately attack them. For though we desire to be at peace, we must not let our neighbours underrate us or think that we are afraid. But afterwards I learned to thank Freya for her text, and our forefathers for the laws which they established upon it. Warolda and Alveda have given me many years, and I have travelled over many lands and seas, and after all that I have seen, I am convinced that we alone are chosen by Alveda to have laws. Leaders' people can neither make laws nor obey them. They are too stupid and uncivilized. Many are like Finder. They are clever enough, but they are too rapacious, haughty, false, immoral, and bloodthirsty. The toad blows himself out, but he can only crawl. The frog cries, "Work, work," but he can do nothing but hop and make himself ridiculous. The raven cries, "Spare, spare," but he steals and wastes everything that he gets into his beak. Finder's people are just like these. They say a great deal about making good laws, and everyone wishes to make regulations against misconduct, but does not wish to submit himself to them. Whoever is the most crafty crows over the others, and tries to make them submit to him, till another comes who drives him off his perch. The word Eva, or Eva, E-V-A, is too sacred for common use. Therefore, men have learned to say even. Eva means that sentiment which is implanted in the breast of every man in order that he may know what is right and what is wrong, and by which he is able to judge his own deeds and those of others. That is, if he has been well and properly brought up, Eva has also another meaning, that is, tranquil, smooth, like water, that is not stirred by a breath of wind. If the water is disturbed, it becomes troubled, uneven, but it always has a tendency to return to its tranquil condition. That is its nature. Just as the inclination towards justice and freedom exists in friars' children, we derive this disposition from the spirit of our father Warolda, which speaks strongly in friars' children and will eternally remain so. Eternity is another symbol of Warolda, who remains always just and unchangeable. Eternal and unalterable are the signs, wisdom and rectitude, which must be sought after all pious people and must be possessed by all judges. If, therefore, it is desired to make laws and regulations which shall be permanent, they must be equal for all men. The judges must pronounce their decisions according to these laws. If any crime is committed respecting which no law has been made, a general assembly of all the people shall be called, where judgment shall be pronounced in accordance with inspiration of Warolda's spirit. If we act thus, our judgment will never fail to be right. If instead of doing right, men will commit wrong, there will arise quarrels and differences among people and states. Thence arise civil wars, and everything is thrown into confusion and destroyed. And, O foolish people, while you are injuring each other, the spiteful Finders people with their false priests come and attack your ports, ravish your daughters, corrupt your morals, and at the last throw the bonds of slavery over every free man's neck. And there you go. I'm going to leave it there, guys. So that's part 2 of the Oera Linda book. Hope you enjoyed that, and I'll be back with part 3 soon. Bye for now.